Hello, guys. So far, we had seen the first wheel of the car, that is, personal life and its subtopics. And hereafter, we're gonna see about the second wheel, that is, relationship. So, today, our topic is speaking sensitively. Let's go for it. We should deal with each other sensitively. Our attitude towards life affects how we act in our relationships. A gentle answer turns away wrath, that is, anger. But a harsh word stirs up anger. Said by Solomon. What do you mean how you treat your wife? Monk asked him, alarmed. I had been to their house and found nothing amiss, that is, imperfect. Was there something he wasn't sharing? It was not what it sounds like, he said, blushing. It is just that we are constantly fighting and bickering. She always wants to change things about me, and I end up leaving the room when she starts with her suggestions. I was quite taken aback by his comments. How people behave in public can be very different from how they are in their private lives. I repeat once again, how people behave in public can be very different from how they are in their private lives. Just a few minutes ago, I was experiencing the warmth in the exchange between you two, the monk said. I suppose we act differently depending on whose company we are in. He paused for a moment. How can we maintain the spark that we once had? What you witnessed at my home today was what it was constantly like in America when we were together. But it slowly started to fizzle out. Why does this happen? There was a series of things I wanted to say. I started by comforting him. This happens with all relationships, not just in marriages. If we are not proactive in our relationships, they start to seem dry and become cumbersome. We have to have respect for the other person, which is reflected in how sensitively we treat them. The monk said I had another anecdote to share, so let's see about it. The wheels of the plane screeched as we landed on the tarmac of Heathrow Airport, London. I deftly unclipped my seatbelt and stretched lethargically. It had been a 10-hour flight from Mumbai. Torrential rains meant our plane was circling the English capital for 3/4 of an hour. A member of the crew brought my bag down from the cabin above, exemplifying their excellent service during the flight. Seeing my saffron robes, I felt that they were biased towards me at times, giving me an extra pillow or a larger tomato juice. Although I never felt entitled to this, I thanked them. I tend to travel light when I go abroad. The great thing about being a monk is that you don't have to decide what to wear in the morning. That is orange every day. You don't need to worry about grooming your hair. That is, you don't have any. And your bags are tiny. That is, you own very little. Having fewer possessions frees one of anxiety, giving you more mind space for the vital things in life. I repeat it once again. Having fewer possessions frees one of anxiety, giving you more mind space for the vital things in life. Walking down the slope towards the official entry point, a lady came running after me, weaving in between people, shouting, Swamiji, Swamiji, can I help you with your bag? I was only carrying a small black laptop bag, and to take her help would have been awkward. I'm good. Thank you very much, I responded. People around us were now staring at us. I can carry your bag. It's not a problem, she persisted. No, no, I'm fine. But why don't we wait in the immigration line together? I responded, intrigued by her persistence. Frequent international travel and social dealings have taught me a valuable lesson, which is to fight the strong urge to judge someone based on an initial interaction with them. Everyone has a fascinating story that we know nothing about. This lady seemed to be in her mid 30s. She was wearing a thick black fleece which looked ready to face the British Spring, and she was carrying a small brown carry on suitcase with four wheels. The corner of a dark blue passport was popping out of her fleece pocket. She was Indian. I'm Manasi. Nice to meet you. Your bright saffron attire caught my eye, she said. I can't miss me in these clothes. Sorry, you can't miss me in these clothes, I replied, eliciting a half smile from her. What do you do? I am a scuba diving instructor, she announced proudly. Incredible, I said. Are you a part of ISKCON? She asked abruptly. Her tone had now slightly changed. Small talk was over, I sensed. Time to talk business. ISKCON is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, founded by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who was affectionately addressed by his followers as Srila Prabhupada. She was correct. This was the institution of spiritually minded people I was a part of. Yes, I said hesitatingly. Seeing the dissatisfaction on her face, she was quick to respond. Well, ISKCON Chaupati is the worst ISKCON temple I have ever been to, she said, not knowing that it was. She showed the temple I had been a part of for over half my life. What do you say so? Did you have a bad experience? I asked her. We both edged forward in the line. Yes, a terrible experience. Growing up, I have always been curious to find my spiritual path and wanted to study the Bhagavad Gita. I found a course online on the ISKCON Chaupati website where I could study the Gita in depth. That is, verse by verse. So, I visited the admissions office in the temple, excited to sign up. Then Manasi's head lowered. I think she didn't want the others in the queue to overhear, but a few heads did turn towards us. I went to the desk where a gentleman was sitting, busily typing away at his laptop with earphones on. She continued. A short while passed before he even realized that I was standing there, and then he pulled his left earphone out in frustration. How can I help you? What would you like? He snapped. A little thrown aback by his unpleasantness, I replied, I would like to do your long course on the Bhagavad Gita, please. Have you done the Journey of Self-Discovery course? He snapped again, without acknowledging my polite manners and my request. Yes, I have at this temple. He paused and pulled his other earphone out, now looking directly into my eyes. Do you have a counselor? A counselor? I reacted. Why do I need a counselor? Everything is fine in my life. I didn't know at that point that ISKCON Chaupati has a mentorship system to coach spiritual enthusiasts, which they call the counselor system. I thought he was implying that I needed a psychological counselor because there was something wrong with me. He told me that unless I had a counselor, was a regular attendee of the temple programs, followed this rule and followed that rule, I couldn't take the course I wanted to take. He told me that the requirements were clearly mentioned on the website and then putting his earphones back in. Returned to his laptop, not waiting for me to respond. The instructions were not on the website, as far as I know, and I had never heard of the ridiculous rules he was mentioning. I just wanted to study the Bhagavad Gita. He was so rude and unpleasant in his dealing with me that I felt judged and wronged in the very last place I would expect to be, in a temple. I never intend to go back to that temple if that's the way people are allowed to behave. I tried to pacify Manasi as a few people in the queue turned to look at me scornfully, overhearing her complaining. I'm very sorry that this happened to you and you had this awful experience. It was irresponsible of him to deal with you in such a way. Trying to change the subject to something more positive, I said, so, you did this journey of self discovery course? Who was your lecturer on that course? I took the course with Gaur Gopal Das, she muttered. Was my face that forgettable? I laughed inwardly. It was the perfect time for some unbiased feedback to see how well I was doing. She clearly had not realized that it was me she had taken the course with. I gulped and said, so, how did you like the course? Was he good? Did you learn a lot in the course? He was fantastic, spoke with so much clarity and humor. I gave a sigh of relief. A positive review. I cut her short before she could continue further as too much praise can go straight to the head. Madam, I am Gaur Gopal Das. Can't be, she yelled in disbelief. The immigration officers looked up from their desks, surprised. But their faces reassumed their usual serious expressions in less than a second. Manasi's face also changed from brown to red. I can show you my passport and documents if you like, I joked. I'm so sorry. Sorry. But did you not wear glasses at that time? You don't seem to be wearing them any longer. She defended herself. I did not mean to say that the whole of the ISKCON Chaupati was a bad place, but I was treated very badly and felt deeply hurt. I empathized with her and apologized on behalf of my ashram. Please come back and visit us. The extended Gita course does have some requirements, but I teach a weekly class that you can come and join. I said warmly, wishing her all the best. Slightly embarrassed, she walked ahead of me to get her passport scanned and checked. I didn't see her in the baggage hall after that incident. As the stern officer at the counter checked my details, I remember thinking to myself that if we do not deal with others sensitively, we could ruin our relationship with them. Being attentive in our relationships is crucial to our success. How we behave towards others determines the quality of our life. It's just my personality is not an acceptable excuse to be insensitive towards others. My golden rule to know whether or not you are being adequately sensitive to another person is treat someone better than you would like to be treated. Treat someone better than you would like to be treated. Ask yourself the question, does my tone of voice, body language, and behavior reflect sensitivity? As soon as I finished, Harry asked, so did you see her again? Was she able to forgive the person who spoke harshly to her? Fortunately, she did return and started attending my Gita sessions in the evening. I would say she forgave him. That's great. Harry paused, as if thinking of how to shift the subject of our conversation to himself. So he started. With my wife, it can be difficult to be sensitive. I work such long hours. When I come back home tired, she can say things that are so infuriating that I cannot control what I say. It's hard when you live so close to someone at all times. Familiarity breeds contempt, I replied. When we are over familiar with people, we forget how important they are to us and the correct way to behave them. When we are over familiar with people, we forget how important they are to us and the correct way to behave with them. I live with over 100 other monks and I assure you it is challenging, no doubt. However, a lesson I learned over 20 years ago changed how I acted in my relationships from then on, the monk said. So, let's catch you in the next video. Thank you.